Welcome to the Biotech Startups podcast by Exceeder. Join us as we speak with first-time founders, serial entrepreneurs, and experienced investors about the challenges and triumphs of running a biotech startup, from pre-seed to IPO, with your host, John Chi. In our last episode, Samir Khleif shared how his time at the National Cancer Institute shaped his dual identity as a clinician scientist, and how that mindset helped him build a world-class cancer centre from the ground up. If you missed it, check out part 2. In part 3, Samir reflects on his return to government service, where he led a national reform effort at the FDA while continuing to advise on biotech strategy abroad and still kept his lab running. He also shares how academia gave him the freedom to innovate, what it took to recruit top-tier talent, and how one scientific breakthrough and a shift in mindset led to the founding of Georgiamune.
And so now you're like, okay, they're self-sufficient, they're stood up, and the torch has been passed. What was the next step on your horizon? I believe, was this when you decided to get into academia, or kind of did you go back to NCI at this point?
No, I went back to NCI at that time, and I was asked by the NCI director, who was Andy von Eschenbach, who was also the FDA commissioner. He was doing both, to go to the FDA and be special assistant to the FDA commissioner. Again, I always kept my lab at NCI, so I always was doing my research. But I was asked by him to lead the critical path, oncology critical path at the FDA. And I did that. So I was doing that while also helping the King of Jordan develop the biotechnology, the biotech strategy of Jordan and what it needs to take it forward. So I was doing those three things at the same time. But the FDA one was really critical because it was a process that the FDA put together and Andy von Eschenbach put together to develop a process, a reform or reinvention process of the drug development and approval, and how you connect that whole thing together. You can make it more efficient, same safety, better efficacy, but more efficient. So I worked with the commissioner for 3 years in putting together a team of 100 and some experts in the country, 120 experts in the country. And we developed that process under 6 different pillars. And we gave the report and the recommendation to the commissioner after 3 years. But that was also a very great experience. And I believe it helped a lot.
That is, I want to say, incredible. like assembling like 100 people. It's like, so I'll just back up. I think I see kind of a through line here. It's just like, if you put your mind to it, you can get a lot done.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that, again, you need to really think out of the box of how you do it. Because when we thought of what needs to be done and how it needs to be developed, it was a wide canvas.
Yeah.
Right. So started putting the puzzles together and putting what needs to be done and who's going to do what and what are the different topics and what are the things that we need to accomplish at the end. So it's really a building process of things that you think about. But you cannot just do it out of the wide canvas. You need to dig under the canvas, similar to what we've done in Jordan. You go find out, where are the caveats, where are the holes, not only in the center but also around the center. It's in the community. What do the community need? So you need to really look into the focus and around the focus, evaluate it, understand it, and then say, fine, what's the end goal? Well, the end goal in Jordan was to get this into the best level at the Western style, US style cancer center. Fine. Then what is needed? Then you start building it, right? So you fill the holes and you build. Same thing at FDA. This is exactly what we did. What is needed to be done? What are the things that are not there? And then how you put them, and who are the experts that know 6 million times more than I do?
Yeah.
Bring them together and start thinking about this. And this is what happened. And that's before I went into academia.
Yeah. And I love that too, because I think just be like, I mean, recruiting that much talent, it's an incredible feat. And I know like sales has a kind of like a certain connotation to it, but you must also learn how to persuade talented individuals to join your cause. And they're like, because here's the thing, like smart people have like opportunities everywhere. Like they're so like how do you how do you convince really, really talented people who have tons and tons of opportunity to join a cause like that?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you, most of people want to serve. Most of people want to do something that has value. Whether the project at FDA, when you call your friends, your colleagues, and you say, look, this is something that would be of value. And then the answer always, most of the time, the answer, of course, we'll do it, because that's how we do things. And I think we take advantage of that. And people know and understand that what they do is beneficial, and what they do, and they want to do something of that would be of help. Same thing when I went to Jordan, is talking to people that would convince to go back with. I mean, look, one of the people that I convinced to go back, he's a minister of health now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was at NIH, and I convinced him to go back and lead the development of the ICU at the cancer center. And 3 years ago or 4 years ago, he was appointed as Minister of Health, and he's still a Minister of Health.
Holy
so
crap.
It's great, right? It's great, because you feel like, look, if we didn't do this, the man would not be there, and he's a fantastic Minister of Health. So another person who I recruited from Duke University, and he became my deputy, and then he took over when I left. Now he's building a medical school in Jordan, right? Which is going to be a major medical school for the region. So all this compact, right? The amount of impact when things are done and you bring the best people together, it becomes compacted. It's become more, it mushrooms, which is really fantastic. So people want to serve. The most important is to choose the right people and to convince them to be part of that process, not because you want them, but because they want to be there and they want to serve. And more importantly, which I learned, that when you recruit people, you need to make sure that they realize and understand that's a growth experience for them. It's not something that they're going to go there and stagnate. So you need to present it, not falsely so, rightly so, because this is what you're doing when you lead something, is that, look, here's what you could do, and here's the growth opportunity, not only for you as a person, but for what you're going to be serving. And that by itself will help you grow. And I think that's probably the most critical part of convincing anyone to join you in any project, is not only for your charm, not only for your good look, not only for your friendship or doing you a favor. It's more what is in it for them to grow and feel that they've accomplished something.
Absolutely.
I think that's the most critical way.
And that's like an incredible lesson, because like I think, I mean, it's very succinct. Like it's very succinct. And also it's like, I think it's easy to, and like once you have that kind of succinct lens, you can, like you talked about, like also person selection is important too. You can quickly start to screen where that, like if there's no resonance there, like if people are not driven to the mission and not having like a growth oriented mindset, maybe not a good fit. Like,
right. No, absolutely. Exactly. And by the way, some of that you discover afterward.
Yeah. That too.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But you need to discover it early.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure that either it's corrected or it's move on. When you take any institution in general, you need to know who is there to move with, and who's there going to be pulling you back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are very important understanding of that landscape. And then you need to deal with that, because otherwise the pullers sometimes they become really an impediment for progress. So that's what is important.
Absolutely. So now you've assembled this Avengers kind of lineup of talent at the FDA. What was it that drew you to academia? And how did that opportunity come about?
So look, I was still at NCI at that time.
Yeah.
Even when I was at FDA, I was at NCI. I was detailed 50% of my time. But I felt that, look, my career at NCI was very unconventional. I mean, NCI scientists are NCI scientists. They're in their lab, they're in their clinic, either. And so when I was at NCI, in addition to starting a whole area of research and developing a section, which is the program for cancer vaccine program, I was able to build the cancer center, and I was able to serve as an FDA commissioner. So there are lots of things, right? So at the end, after so many years at NCI, you feel like, I think I've done what I could do. And also, in all honesty, serving in government, there are certain rules and limitations beyond ability to do things, right? You cannot go and commercialize things. You cannot go and build things with commercial entities. You cannot. So there are certain limits that you have to abide by, which is rightly so, right? While academic institutions, they have more freedom to do that. So I reached a level where I felt that I think it's time to move on. And then there was an opportunity that came along. I was approached to be considered to build the cancer center for the state cancer center for Georgia, which is at the Medical College of Georgia. And I felt that, I just built the cancer center. It was a great opportunity, great experience. I like to build stuff. I built this thing at FDA. So it's something that would be another way of evolving and doing something outside government. So I went to Georgia to do that.
Very cool. And I would imagine, like, as you're also building this cancer center, you're also starting to teach.
Well, teaching was there even when you were at NCI, even when you were at Georgia. You teach because you get students, you get postdocs, so that's part of what we do all the time.
Yep.
I mean, as a researcher, you always teach. Anytime you have a lab meeting, anytime you have a project meeting, you teach. So that's part of it. But it's a place where you can start programs now because you can grant degrees. So when we started the Cancer Center, we also started PhD or higher education in oncology, like oncology, cancer biology PhD. So we started those things. So these are things that you can build as you go and make further programs for education. But yeah, so teaching is a big part of what we do anyway.
Very cool. And so at Augusta, it sounds like you were given a bit more freedom to kind of outside the confines of kind of a governmental institution. Can you talk a little bit more about that kind of like expression of your creativity? Obviously, you talk about creating a program for granting degrees.
Yeah, I mean, look. So there are two things. One is in Augusta, in the medical college, what we wanted to do is really to build a state program, state cancer center. So what we were able to do is really build a great cancer center plus an oncology service line, which is an integrated. So this is how we did it. So I used the same principle that I've learned at NCI of how to integrate basic science with clinical. So we put them all under one umbrella and we built them. The second thing is we built something called C-Care, which is a cancer education and awareness for underserved population, which I actually had a hearing in Congress about it, and about how to put it together and how to develop it and evolve it for underserved population. But the more important, what I would say, the difference is that in a university, you can discover at some point when your IP can be now taken further one step and you can form a company. At the government, you cannot do that. Right? At the government, even if you have IPs, the government should license them to somebody outside. You cannot actually decide to do that. When I was in Georgia, I felt that, I had multiple IPs, and I decided either I'm going to leave it at the university and I get quoted a lot about this, and I feel that majority of universities, universities are cemeteries for innovation. I don't know if you want to keep that or remove it, but
I understand.
Short of few really entrepreneurial universities, IP gets shelved because either they don't have the bandwidth, or they don't have the funding, or they don't have the ability, or they don't have the connection, anything, right? So I had multiple IPs at the university, and I decided to take the bull by the horn and form the company. At the government, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's part of those entrepreneurship that you have, right? You start a certain program, or you develop a society in a university or whatever. So that partly was, I either going to leave it to the universities to do whatever, and then God knows what will happen, or I'm going to take it and develop it. So I decided to spin out the company and take the license of my IPs from the universities and just put them in the company and move it along. And that's what happened.
So can you tell us a little bit about your experience tech transferring out that intellectual property that you had developed? Like, what was that like?
So it was a learning experience because I had no clue.
Yeah.
Right. So in general, there are no people that tells you how to do that at universities. Right. So I had to start calling friends that had some idea of what to do that. And by that time, you don't know too many friends that know how to do it, because your friends are limited to academia, which they haven't done that before. But then I really got outside that circle and I started calling friends that know how to do that, who started introducing me to more and more people, including to my current lawyers, right? Current attorneys at the company who know how to put things together and expand them and negotiate licensing and all these kind of things. When you do anything, right? When you do anything, you might not know how to do it. But this is why I said, like, when I went to Jordan, going back to Jordan, or when I never ran a cancer center.
Yeah.
But you learn because of that. What I told you is to start knocking on doors and asking questions and learn, right? And get the people that know. So it was painful because I really did not know how to do it. And I was exploring that and learning more and more from people, and then getting people to help me connect with other people. And finally, the process align, right? Oh, okay, so this is what we need to do next.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what we need to do next. Okay, well, let me call the university and tell them I would like to to actually put the license together now. Oh, but you need a company. Okay, well, let me know form a company. So all these kind of things, right? But that was the process. It was a learning process. It took longer than I expected. That usually takes, probably, because you learn as you go. But that's part of the spirit, right? That's part of how you do things. You should not be frustrated. You should ask. You should get people that know. And you should not be let down with failures, because that's the end of it. So that was the licensing process. We formed a company, and then it took some time to understand what the process is. And then finally, we developed the licensing agreement, and I got the people that knows how to negotiate licensing agreement put together. I mean, seriously, that's the process, right? Because there's no structure for it, and I did not have a structure for it. So finally we did, and then we spun out the company, and the company started to work.
That's awesome. And was this during, were you also at Georgetown at this time?
Well, it was overlapping. So when we started the company, then I left, and then I came to Georgetown, and then the company was there, and I was working on developing it slowly by myself. And then, so first of all, I actually put my own money in the company so I can fund it. I got it to a level where now we got a small space in one of the incubators, put the company together, hired a couple of people, put stuff together until we reached a level where I felt that now I can raise funds. That was, yes, during my presence at Georgetown.
Very cool. And I love the kind of one foot in front of the other kind of mentality. It's just like, we're just figuring it out.
But that's exactly the case. I wanted to tell you, this is usually not planned.
Yeah.
This is, now, oh, I see where I'm going to put my foot now. Okay, I'm going to put it there.
Yeah.
Let me see, where's my next one? Okay, I'm now going to put it there. But that's how it works. But this is why, John, I say persistence is a critical point. Persistence is critical point, not to let the process get you down. And it's a roller coaster, as you very well know, right? And then third, ask. I tell everyone, just knock on the door, pick up the phone and call. No one's going to tell you no. Break that courage and just do it, because people will help, as everybody does. People like to help. So never not pick up. I don't remember any time I wanted to talk to somebody and ask a question that says, no, I can't help you. Never. It's very important. That's
a critical tip. And I think a lot of the time it's just not taking that step. And then it's kind of the, I don't know if this is the right idiom for it, but it's like the squeaky wheel is the one that gets oil. And
Yeah.
I'm not to say that that you're squeaky and complaining, but it's just like, you have to say something.
That's right.
And then you eventually get the oil to help to keep it moving, but you just have to say something.
I get it. It doesn't mean that every call is going to help you, right? But
Yeah, totally. There's plenty of times you're like, all right, that's okay. Oh, I'm going to move on to the next one. And you just have to keep it moving. And I love to just like the, seeding the company with your initial capital and then like start like doing it kind of like incrementally and like de-risking, hire some people, do get into an incubator space, de-risk it. And can you just talk about like, we're now getting to the kind of current day of like Georgiamune. Can you talk about just maybe what was the IP that you're like, this is it. This is necessitates company creation in order to effectuate this into like get it to patients. Talk a little bit about that and like the mission and values of the company.
So I think the main IP for us was, or the main idea for me was that when I was in Georgia, is we discovered the master switch of T regulatory cell. And we were able to develop a hit. So we found a drug that could. So for me, that was the moment that I felt, I have to do this. This is something I've been working on for some time. This is a drug that's one drug that clearly can make a difference. Of course, that's not the drug, right? Because you need to develop the drug afterward. But that there is a potential possibility for us to do something that is very unique. People have been looking into this for years, and we found it. And we can help people. So in this case, I had that option, right? Either keep it to the university to do it, because I didn't know anything about how to do it, or, as I mentioned, take the bull by the horn and say, you know what, doggone it, I'm going to do it, and I'll learn how to do it, and we'll make a company and we'll take it forward. So it wasn't a struggle. It wasn't even a sitting moment says, should I or should I not?
Yeah.
I mean, it was absolute natural process. Clear. I'm doing it. That's done. And this is where I formed the company. And this is where I thought, that's it. Well, let's start it. So when I formed the company, I was still there, and it was still incubating for some time. But then when I decided that's it, we're going to take it forward. I think that was, to answer your question, that was the moment. It wasn't this only IP that we took out. There were other IPs. But when you start thinking of those terms, then you look at the other IP and says, but this one also can be something. Because now the whole mentality is changed from only discovery to now more development and commercialization, or development and getting it to patients. So now you start thinking, oh yeah, but this one also can be something, and maybe this one. And then this is why we took it all as a package. Although some of it was not even a drug, it was still an idea. But that's it. The mentality is set now. So one of them was a beginning of a drug. We made them 2 drugs afterward. And one was even an idea. And now the mentality became, so we're making a drug. And even the idea now became a larger idea. And there are multiple other drugs came out of it, right? So, but it's a mentality change. It's a whole direction of how you're thinking about an issue. Is it now I'm going to continue discovering stuff? Or since I have that in the back of my mind, how we're going to help people, now I can take it and help people, right? So that's the change in mentality. And when you do that, everything you look at is become differently looking at it. So
very interesting. And I didn't realize you can do like package deals like that, where you can like create kind of like almost like a portfolio, or almost like
it's a portfolio. We licensed all the IP that I had, and we had multiple IPs that could develop into drug idea and therapeutics, and they did.
That's very cool. And were all these IP things that you had developed while being a professor?
Correct.
This was a long one of the early episodes of the podcast. We interviewed Steve Visco, who was one of the early kind of like tech transfer success stories out of Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And it was one of his patents that they were tech transferring out. But he said in the early days, it was like his company would pay a licensing fee. And because he was a patent holder, the licensing fee just went back into his pocket because he was still working at Lawrence Berkeley. So he's like, I'm licensing it for myself. So it's kind of like this circuitous kind of cycle of life. Right. I just thought it was funny.
Thanks for listening to part 3 of our conversation with Samir Khleif. In the final episode of this series, Samir shares how he built a mission-driven team, raised early funding, and brought a portfolio of first-in-class immunotherapies from concept to clinic. He also discusses what set Georgiamune apart, how science and culture shape its strategy, and why adaptability and alignment are essential in today's market. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the show, leave us a review, and share it with a friend. See you next time. The Biotech Startups podcast is produced by Exceeder. Don't want to miss an episode? Search for the Biotech Startups podcast wherever you get your podcasts and click subscribe. Exceeder provides research labs with equipment leases on founder-friendly terms to support paths to exceptional outcomes. To learn more, visit our website www.exceeder.com. On behalf of the team here at Exceeder, thanks for listening. The Biotech Startups podcast provides general insights into the life science sector through the experiences of its guests. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from the podcast is at the user's own risk. The views expressed by the participants are their own and are not the views of Exceeder or sponsors. No reference to any product, service, or company in the podcast is an endorsement by Exceeder or its guests.